Good evening. Thank you for coming to my channel. Thank you for clicking on this video wherever you found it, whether it was Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You won't find it on Instagram. Find it on Twitter or YouTube, wherever it was. Thank you for coming, for bothering to click on this video. I just wanted to, I guess, echo a message that I had in my last sit down video, just about paying attention to the little things and to the small things. And so I hope you've been blessed, but I wanted to talk about fire. Now, one thing I've noticed is that a lot of us, including myself, often look around at other people and we think to ourselves, man, that person is really on fire. They're really doing a lot, you know. And we look at the things that they're doing, we look at the things that they're saying, the places that they're going, and all these sort of things. And when we're like, man, I want to have a fire like that. I want to have a passion for God like that. And what I really begun to realize is that a lot of us want fire, which is good. It's good to want to have a passion for God. It's good to want to be, you know, consistent in this and that. But fire is often for a lot of us what we want, but what we need is commitment. I've got a few notes here, so I'm going to be referring to them. Apologies if I don't look at the camera too much. But yeah, a lot of us are not willing to be committed to God. You know, the Bible says that we should put God first, and seek His word first, and seek His righteousness first. And everything that we possibly need, we will have. The Bible also says that we should love the Lord above absolutely everything else. That there should be nothing that we love, that we serve more than we serve God. And the thing about love is that in today's world, you have two different voices. You have people telling you that love is a feeling. You have people telling you that, you know, it's about the warm and fuzzy feelings, you know, and it's about, you know, whether you really feel an attachment to that person, you know, whether you got that soul connection with that person. And you have the other voice. One second. You have the other voice, which is people in relationships, people in successful marriages, people with successful businesses, people with successful friendships, no matter what it is. People who have successful interactions with other human beings say that the key to their success is putting someone else's needs before our own. And so a lot of the time, I know for myself, when I looked at the commandment, you know, love the Lord your God, you know, above all things, you shall have no other idols before me, and so on and so forth. I thought, man, how does that become a reality? Because I think a lot of the time, or I know for myself personally, in the last couple of weeks, there's been a lot of little scriptures. There's been a lot of scriptures that to me, like before, they were kind of like just words, but now like they're living. Like now I understand them. Now I have anecdotes that testify of the truth of those scriptures. And this is another one of them, you know, because as I said, love, that those two voices that you have, the second one is the one that's correct. Love is not about how you feel. Love is about making a commitment to put someone else's needs above your own. And now it's no coincidence that God likens the relationship between us and Christ as the relationship between a man and a woman, and not in that particular order, all the way around. But still, if we take people who are in successful marriages as the example of people saying that, you know, love is not about how you feel, but about putting someone else's needs above your own, then if that's the case, if a successful marriage relies on one person putting the needs of another before their own, then how much more so our relationships with God? And this may all sound very abstract and so on and so forth. The thing is that these aren't big lofty ideas. These aren't big lofty aspirations that are just so far out there that they're unattainable. They're really, really simple. Now, the Bible also says that we should seek God first, as I mentioned earlier. We should seek God first. We should seek Him and His righteousness, and everything we need will be added onto us. And that one part that says, "and His righteousness," the righteousness of God is the word, the instruction and the wisdom that God has given us in His word. And those are simple things like honoring your mother and father, honoring another man in his ministry, not forsaking the gathering, not lying, doing everything that you do as unto God, so on and so forth, loving your enemies, because the Bible says, if those who are perishing, or if an evil man loves those who love him, have you really done something huge if you also only love those who love you? No, it says that we should love our enemies also. Because the issue is, as I said, like a lot of the time, we look at these things and we kind of forget about them. We brush them away and be like, oh man, I see the ministry, I see the fire, I see the good relationship, I see, their organization, I see, I can see all these sort of things that they're doing that are so... that build up this desire inside of us to shoot for those things. And I think a lot of the time, with a lot of people who are putting out, content and information and stuff like that, I find that we almost forget. It's not even that we forget, it's more that we kind of ignore it as we read it. As we watch these things, we ignore the fact that these people were faithful with the small things before God gave them the big things. Now, when you look in the Bible, like the rich man, and he's like, what must I do in order to inherit salvation? And Jesus is like, sell everything that you have, give it to the poor, and come and follow me. And the rich man, the Bible says, I think that he was sorrowful, he was sad, because he realized that he was not willing to give up his riches. He loved his riches more than he loves God. Now, the reason why he was unable to follow God wasn't because he wasn't on fire. God was asking him to give everything that he had, and he wasn't willing to be committed. That's the reason why he wasn't able to follow Christ. It wasn't because he wasn't on fire. And it wasn't because, maybe he was in the world. No. It was because he was unwilling to be committed. And the thing that a lot of us don't realize is that when we make excuses that hinder us from being committed to God's work, to His will, oh man, I'm too tired, I've got this errand to run, I've got to do this, I've got to do that, what a lot of us don't realize is that we actually sound, in the Bible, I'll find the scriptures for you guys, but in the Bible it speaks of that man, when Jesus was like to him, come and follow me, and the man was like, let me go and bury my dad first. Let me just go bury my dad, and then I'll be right with you in like 2 seconds. And Jesus was like, let the dead bury their dead. Now that story, a lot of the time, seems so, again, it seems so abstract and lofty, and kind of like, that's not exactly my situation, but that's a cool story. But the thing is that, let's put ourselves in his shoes, because it's actually quite deep. Like, can you imagine, like, if your father's still alive, a significant other, someone who you're really close with, it could be your dad, it could be your mom, it could be your best friend, it could be your significant other, it could be anyone in your life that you're really close with. Like, or imagine if that person, you're in a group of people who know that one person, and that person were to die, because the fact is that every single one of us is going to die one day. That person dies, right? And there's a funeral, and let's say it's on a Saturday, and you've got, God is like to you, oh man, I want you to be in this place. It's actually quite peak, like, because you can imagine, like, you're in that situation, there's a whole boatload of people who are like to you, you need to be at the funeral and da-da-da-da-da, but God is calling you to go and do something else. That's a really, really tough situation. And I bring this up because recently I've had to do this. I've had to let down family members because deep down, I know, man, God does not want me to leave my city right now. He does not want me to go. And so I've had to let family members down. And when you put yourself in his shoes, you realize kind of how deep that is. And the thing is that, let's say again we're in that situation. If someone else who knows that person was like to you and is close with you was like to you, you know, you really need to be at the funeral, and you were like to them, but I've got to sleep. Oh, but I've got to get rest. Oh, but I've got to go and do this. Oh, but I've got to go and see this person. It wouldn't really be a valid excuse, would it? Especially if it's a family member. It wouldn't really be a valid excuse. And so why is it that when it comes to the things of God, these excuses are now valid? Shouldn't it be the other way around, where it's less valid because it's something that needs to be done for God? And so you look at people like Daniel in the Bible. You know, I mentioned this in the last video because I really found it quite profound. You know, because he was in the I think he was in the palace. Yeah, it was Nebuchadnezzar, and he was like, you know, he was serving all of his people this decadent and these delicacies and all these special food and and Daniel had purposed in his heart. That's the word I believe that the Bible uses. I love that word. He had purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with certain things that the other people were eating. Now you can imagine, like, you're sitting in the middle of your school hall, you know, everyone's eating apple crumble. Man, I love apple crumble. Cinnamon and apple crumble, you know, and it tastes good and you can smell it, you know, and it tastes so enticing and it looks so good, and the sugar on top of the crumble is glistening. You'd be tempted, right? But Daniel had purposed inside of himself that no matter what happens, I'm not eating that. He made the decision, he committed himself, he sanctified himself, he set himself apart and was like, I'm not doing this. I don't care what comes my way. And he was blessed for it. I mean, read the book of Daniel, because it's really, really cool, man. I love the book of Daniel. Read the book of Daniel. And you see how, you know, from small little actions like that, where people have decided to set themselves apart from the world and do what God has called them to do and not what others have called them to do, they end up being blessed for it. And so again, you know, the fact is that we're either going to choose our own desires or God's desires. We're either going to put our sleep before God, or we're going to put God before our sleep. Because think about it, like, this is probably going to be my last point. Like, think about it, because my pastor has said this a million times and the penny's never really dropped for me. Yeah, so you know, you wake up in the morning sometimes, and this has happened to me a lot in the past 2 weeks. I wake up in the morning and I think about the fact that I've got to go to work, and I'm like, literally the first thing I say when I wake up, I do not want to go to work today. Like, if there were any way where I could not go to work, I would not go to work today. And yet somehow, some way, every single time that happens, I still end up in the shower. I still end up at work on time. I still end up I still end up getting there, and I still end up forcing myself and having the dominion over myself to get where I need to be for work. Why is it that we can't do the same thing for prayer? Why is it that all of a sudden, you know, when we wake up, we snooze our alarm if it's prayer that we've got to get up for? But if it's work, you gotta shake yourself. You go into the bathroom, you splash water on your face, you jump straight in the shower and have a cold shower, or you do whatever you do in order to get yourself up. And this morning, literally exactly that happened. I woke up this morning and I was like, man, I'm tired, because I was up till like 2 a.m. last night. I woke up this morning and I was like, man, I'm so tired. I do not want to get up. And then I thought about it. What does it mean for me to love God? It means I got to put his needs before mine, right? It means I've got to put him before myself, right? And so I thought about my sleep and I was like, man, it's not worth it. And if I were going to work, the thing is that when you really think about it, you know in yourself that you have the capacity to get yourself up and on your knees and praying. You know you have the capacity, but you choose to snooze your alarm and stick in your bed. It's time that we make this change. It's time that we be committed to the little things that God has given us, because how is he going to trust us with the deeper things? How is he going to trust us with his Holy Spirit if we don't obey the small things? And I'm not exempt. There are many times where the Holy Spirit says something and I don't do it. But the fact is that if we're not looking at the small things, the basic things, and we're not doing those, how can we expect God to bring increase? How can we expect God to move in certain situations in our lives? There's some of us who are dealing with the same things that we were dealing with, in 2015, 2017, 2018, this year. It's time that we make a change and we actually become committed and decide that no matter what it is that you have to give up, you're going to follow God. Make that commitment. If it's your sleep, following Christ is going to cost you. It's going to cost you your sleep sometimes. It's going to cost you money sometimes. It's going to spend you quality time with your family sometimes. It's going to cost you it's going to cost you a meal sometimes. Sometimes you're going to have to miss a meal to do the things of God. Are you willing to let those things go? If you're not willing to let those things go in order to not forsake the gathering of the saints, if you're not willing to let those things go in order to honor God in your workplace, how is it that God is now going to give you instructions to go and speak to this person and that person? You're just going to give the same excuse. Man, I gotta sleep, man. I gotta eat. We gotta eat. How is it? But anyways, I don't wanna start sounding like I'm preaching. I notice now, for those of you who know me, that I'm starting to look like Pastor, in the way that I move my hands and I talk. But it's because I imitate him. And when you hear about him talking, and where he is now, always says I was faithful. I used to come to church, I'd see a void and I'd fill it. The chairs need putting up, yeah man, I'll do that. This needs doing, yeah man, I'll do that. This person needs following up on, yeah man, I'll do that. And look at where he is now. Anyways, I hope you've been blessed. That's all I've got to say. I've been rambling for time. I wonder really how long this video is going to be. It's going to be a nightmare to edit, but it is what it is. I will see you guys next time. Might be random, might be planned. I don't know. We'll see. Bye.